there everybody, it's Ashley back with you again today on the Pinkfresh Studio YouTube channel for some watercolor inspiration. Today we're going to be using this Enchanted Blooms background stamp, and I'll be using it in my original size Misty with this little L-shaped ruler from the Creative Corners, also by My Sweet Petunia, for the Misties. These creative corners are especially helpful when lining up background stamps like this one to make sure that the impression gets on the entire piece of cardstock. For my cardstock, I'm using a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of watercolor cardstock or watercolor paper. I'm making sure to apply even pressure, and with background stamps, I go a little too hard usually for making sure that I get the impression, but I want to make sure that I don't have to stamp this a few times just because it's very easy for the cardstock to move around a little bit, but no worries. The detail black ink from Pinkfresh made a great impression the first time. So now I've got this little plastic well that I use for my liquid watercolors, and I'll be using bubblegum, that's this first pink color here, and then I'm coming in with Aquamarine. I then have Lavender. My next color that I'm dispensing is Sunshine, and then I also have Key Lime that I'll put there in the bottom right hand corner. So this is my color palette. It's very springy or summery. I really love to use many of these colors together just because I think that, like I said, together they're really bright and fun colors. And I'm going to add a little something to the watercoloring in a little bit after I'm completely done watercoloring, but we'll get into that in just a moment. Because this is a watercolor with me video, I will speed this up in just a minute so that you can see it all come together, but I wanted to just add a few tips and let you know what I'm doing here so that you know what you're watching. So normally what I will do is just take some very pigmented watercolor, so this is the watercolor without much of any water added to it, and I'm adding that full pigment right to the base of my petals. I'm then dunking my paintbrush into some clean water and just tapping off the excess there on a piece of paper towel, and then I'm dragging that pigment down. Normally on larger flowers, I will do this or repeat this process 2, 3, sometimes 4 times per petal, but because these images are smaller, I'm able just to do it the one time, and for some petals, I actually just fully saturate them because they're so small. The one thing I do want to make sure I keep consistent is the center of the flower. So you'll see here on this flower, there's a little bit of a center, and then I go outward from there and it gets lighter as it radiates out. So you'll see that in just a minute. And you'll also see that I go back and forth between using the Aquamarine color for the leaves and the Key Lime color for the leaves. And I enjoy doing this just because it gives it the appearance of just being a little bit more like nature, not all leaves are the same color. So I usually like to choose 2 different colors for different shapes of leaves in the same image. So I'm going to go ahead and put some music on now for you. If you're not interested in seeing all of the watercoloring, you can just skip ahead to 6 minutes and 18 seconds. skipping a bit ahead now that we are completely done with our watercoloring. I'm going to bring in my Tim Holtz and Tonic Mini Guillotine Trimmer, and I'm trimming this down from an A2 size, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, to 4 by 5 1/4. So this is now just going to be 1/4 of an inch smaller on all sides than an A2 size card, and that just allows me, when I put it on my card base, which will be an A2 size card, that allows for that really nice clean white border around the outside. I've decided to bring in this beautiful word die from the classic word die set from Pinkfresh, and I'm going to dive into that in just a minute, but first I wanted to show you how I bring a little bit more interest into this watercolor piece. So I'm taking my BG10 Copic marker and I'm going to go around the outside of all of the flowers and basically make this a colored background. I do that just by very simply coloring in around the flowers. Now this is a very light color, so I don't have to worry too much about overlapping, but it will drag some of that watercolor out if I go too far into the watercolor and drag it out. So I want to make sure to stay very, very close to the edge, but not quite get into that watercolor. So now that we have a really nice, beautiful light blue background, I'm now going to take these two beautiful word dies. So you see I have one in white here that I am applying the liquid adhesive to, and then I've got one in a really pretty gold mirror cardstock. The reason that I'm doing this is that I will place the white die cut right on top of that gold mirror die cut and just slightly off to the right a bit. So now there it looks like that there's a shadow of a gold mirror cardstock right underneath that white die cut. I then place that word die onto a piece of vellum, which I die cut out from the shadow die portion of the word die. And now I'm just placing small pieces of foam tape on the back side of the vellum, and this will allow for a little bit of dimension when I go ahead and put the entire die cut onto my card front. I want to make sure that with the foam tape, I stick to where I can see the word die cut through the back of the vellum. That way you won't see the foam tape through the vellum when you adhere it to the card front. So now that I have that all together, all I've got to do is add a sub-sentiment, which I add every day is a new day, and then I put that on a white A2 size card base. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I hope that I was able to inspire you to pull out your Pinkfresh liquid watercolors. As always, we cannot wait to see what you create, so please be sure to tag Pinkfresh in your photos and also hashtag Pinkfresh Studio so we don't miss one. All of the products that I used are listed in the description, and I will see you again very soon. Thanks so much. Bye.